Dr. Manmohan Singh, the late Prime Minister. Here on this page, Times of India newspaper. So that's Dr. Manmohan Singh, the former Prime Minister, but he will first and foremost be remembered for the momentous reforms in 1991 that unshackled the Indian economy. So he a lot of people thank him on the legacy, on his legacy, who rescued a struggling economy in 1991, laying the foundation for what would later become the world's fastest growing large economy. So he is seen as the architect of India's economic reforms during the Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao's rule that paved the way for the country's economic growth. Yeah, and besides economics, his other abiding interest was shairi. So he often employed verses to talk about his views on his political rivals inside and outside the parliament. And his shairi, his poetry attacks, drew loud cheers from both the treasury and the opposition benches. So, of course, in Times it's written when humor and not hostility dominated the mood in parliament. And his shairi strikes found their worthy match in the 15th Lok Sabha from 2009 to 2014. BJP stalwart, that is the late Sushma Swaraj, who was the leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha. And often there used to be a face-off of these poetic verses between the two, and that was nothing less than a delight. So, one such instance, one such epic face-off, I'm just going to read. I just saw on the YouTube channel of the Parliament, somebody just posted it, that Mrs. Sushma Swaraj targeted the Prime Minister with Sahab Jafri's famous line, "तू इधर उधर की ना बात कर, ये बता कि काफिला क्यों लूटा, हमें राहजनों से गिला नहीं, तेरी रहबरी का सवाल है." Now the lines roughly translate to, again, it's just written there, so that's how I'm reading. The lines roughly translate to, don't change the topic, just say why the caravan was looted. We have nothing to say about the robbers, but this is a question on your leadership. So the Prime Minister replied with Allama Iqbal's couplet that drew a smile from Mrs. Swaraj and cheers from the house. Mana ki teri dil ke काबिल नहीं हूँ मैं, तू मेरा शौक देख, मेरा इंतज़ार देख. So he says, you just, I'm not worth your attention, but look at my longing, etc. Look at my weight, the amount I can wait and see what happens, sort of. So he's been credited with shielding India from the 2008 global financial crisis, for solidifying borders, our borders, Indian borders, with the historic Indo-US civil nuclear deal. Also for uplifting the poor with the Right to Education Act 2009. Then for promoting exports with the Special Economic Zones Act 2005. Also for boosting our future by ensuring an average GDP growth rate of 7.8%, which Otherwise, we'd reach the rock bottom somewhere. For providing food security to millions of Indians with the National Food Security Act 2013. For championing the rights of the backward with the Land Acquisition Act of 2013. And for bringing relief to millions of farmers with the Agricultural Debt Waiver and Debt Relief Scheme, that is ADWDRS. So here I have the Economic Times. Actually, all the papers are strewn with his work, with his greatness. That's Manmohan Singh, Prime Minister, ex-Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. And all of that. So the headlines: tributes pour in for a true statement, and I'm just reading. Indo-US nuclear deal, high point of PM Singh's tenure. That's a cartoon over there. That's We'll Miss You, Prime Minister. Contributions transformed India, steered country out of a financial crisis. The Amul ad, Sabke Man Ko Jeeta, won over every person's mind. Dr. Manmohan Singh's 1932 to 2024. So here in the Economic Times, you have the editorial, Manmohanomics is Make in India. It reads well. If you want, you can read it somewhere. It's written in Singh's case. His rise was also symbolic of the up from the bootstraps resilience of his community. In 1947, millions of refugees came across the border from western Punjab, that is Pakistan, with very little but their grit. So he was also one of them, and he worked hard. And wow, what was he? A scholar, self-made individual, is a captivating idea in itself. He was scrupulously, it's a said of him that he was scrupulously honest and a great speaker. And he made sure that his speeches were inoffensive. I'm going through the Times of India magazine. It's written Gentleman Reformer. And here is a picture. There's an article by Montague Singh Ahluwalia, the former finance secretary. This is what he's written. The caption is, Singh's 1991 budget gave our economy a new direction, says Ahluwalia. Montague Singh Ahluwalia. Montague Singh Ahluwalia was his close aide and former finance secretary. And he writes that he was very good at dialogue which built consensus. That was his USP. So in this article he writes that he has left behind 3 big enduring legacies. Number 1, the awareness that a well-considered dedication to economic reform leads to results and that economic policy matters. Point number 2 is that to build a consensus in a country as diverse as India, you must engage in a continuous dialogue with people, listening to people of all shades of opinion. Dr. Singh was very good at that. He didn't think that just because he knew better, that should be it. He would consult people, explain to them why this was necessary, and would also encourage his team to engage in such discussions. That is an essential part of taking the whole country together. Finally, his extreme simplicity honesty, and decency. Everybody who met with him was struck by his gentleness. That was Dr. Manmohan Singh. A combination of courage, vision, and humility. He mostly had that inward smile, that unmistakable inward smile. Most of the photos show that. That's Dr. Manmohan Singh.